Thank you for joining NMH at 1 as we continue to bring you news, views and stories, both local and international, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports and economic news.
Here's what to expect in this lunch hour. 20 families from Onaminda village relocated due to flooding. Unam addresses accreditation concerns. U.S. health regulator proposes annual dose of latest COVID-19 shot. Stick around for these stories and more, read to you by Ashwin Berry and Glenora Shipura.
In today's midday news update, at least 20 families from Onaminda village in Oshikango constituency in Ohangwena region had to be evacuated after flood water submerged their homes. Now, officials from the Ohangwena Regional Council Disaster Risk Management Committee and officials from the Office of the Prime Minister were on the ground to assess the impact of the flood. They called in members of the Namibian Defence Force for assistance. The evacuation team will continue with its efforts throughout the week, getting affected people to dry land.
Leave us a comment on our social media platforms to engage with these stories. Visual news coming up right after the break.
Active Kids is an initiative under the MyZone brand that aims to provide exciting and easy activities and fun stories. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na. Active Kids, where we actively invest in your future.
Heading into the visual news, McHenry Venani, leader of Popular Democratic Movement, has demanded Health Minister Dr. Kalumbi Shangula to explain why the ministry has 32 medical specialists on retainer, yet they spend less than 10% in the public sector. Jemima Beakus was there.
Are running private practices. They only come probably 2 times a week to the hospital. They are earning free salaries from the state. They are running big practices outside. We know their name, but we are calling upon government to stop this health fraud, where doctors, key specialists, are getting full-scale salaries as specialists paid by the state. These doctors are running private practices. They are 90% of their time with private practices. Junior doctors are left to fend for patients. The reason of these specialists, the reason of their appointment was that we push for a retainer, that we retain good doctors in the public sector. But there is a flagrant abuse of doctors that are being paid by the state full-time. They're running private practices. They hardly come to the state, they only come once. 27 of them do not even occupy offices at the state hospitals that they are supposed to supervise as heads of departments and so forth. I'll let it to the media for you to further do your investigation. Very soon, we are going to reveal the names of those doctors. But we want to call upon the Minister of Health to tell this nation.
The University of Namibia this week held a press conference to address issues pertaining to the matter of accreditation. This comes after an article was published calling the university out for advertising courses that are unaccredited and not informing students about failed accreditation. Junior Kapofi reports.
The University of Namibia has submitted 3 newly developed programs in March 2023 to the National Council for Higher Education for accreditation. The Council constituted review panels that conducted reviews at the end of August until October 2022. Panel members were constituted from academia, industry, and quality assurance bodies in Namibia, as well as experts from Botswana, Lesotho, Mauritius, South Africa, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, and the United Kingdom. The Council, after the panel reviews, provided feedback to the university in November 2022 on the outcomes of accreditation processes. The feedback briefly was that 64 programs out of the 83 submitted to NCHE, inclusive of 19 programs submitted to professional bodies, were accredited. All our professional bodies are completely accredited and they are offered as we speak. This represents 77% of the submitted programs. However, 17 programs were not accredited and requires actions to address the gaps that the review panels have identified. These 17 programs are still under accreditations and is not being offered in 2023 because we are very serious with quality assurance. The university has in the meantime reviewed most of the 17 programs, taking the comments of the review panels into account, and has resubmitted them to NCHE in December 2022 for consideration. If approved by NCHE, the university will offer these programs in 2024.
The City of Windhoek Council is demanding that City Police Chief Abraham Kanime repay all salary payments, including 3 13th checks paid to him from May 2020 when he was allegedly unlawfully appointed. This story and more from the daily newspapers coming up shortly in the newspaper review segment.
Hi Nangula, you look sad.
Hi Peter, I am sad because my parents argued about whether I should spend the weekend at my mom's or dad's place. When I asked them why my views were not considered, they told me it has nothing to do with me as I am too young.
That's a job for your cape of participation. It can fix that.
My cap of what?
Your rights. They're your superpowers. Your cape of participation is your right to participation. It means you have a right to participate in decisions which affect your life. You have a right to an opinion and to tell people your views in a respectful way.
For more information, contact the Children's Advocate Namibia in the Office of the Ombudsman on 061 20 73 111. Send us an SMS on 20401. SMS costs 40 cents. You can also send us a message via our Facebook page. Remember, the services of the Children's Advocate are free of charge.
Let's get into our daily newspapers' lead stories. Namibian Sun zooms in on Justice Minister Yvonne Dausep, who has reportedly refused to directly answer questions about her rumored same-sex marriage in South Africa last year, amid murmurs of discontent within the LGBTQI community and the lack of transformation regarding the country's laws to help them marry locally. Dausep reportedly married her partner, a local media personality in South Africa, while this right remains but a pipe dream for many in Namibia. In a separate report, in a courtroom showdown set for this Friday, the City of Windhoek Council, through its lawyer, Patrick Kauta, is demanding that City Police Chief Abraham Kanime repay all salary payments, including 3 13th checks, as well as monthly housing and car allowances paid to him from May 2020 when he was allegedly unlawfully appointed. Now, the paper's page 3 reports that the Namibia Industrial Development Agency has laid, has laid the blame for its over $2 million municipal debt at the feet of its tenants. This after tenants of its Oshapaka complex in Windhoek bemoaned the fact that water was shut off due to debt accumulated by the agency. They added that they are not the only ones who have had their water shut off. Now, according to the City of Windhoek spokesperson Harold Akwenye, in October, the total amount owed to the reconnection of water services was $1.5 million Namibian, while NIDA's gross debt currently stands north of $2 million Namibian.
Now on to Afrikaans Daily. Republican McHenry Venani, leader of the Popular Democratic Movement, has called upon President Hage Geingob to intervene and cancel the controversial $650 million Namibian clinical supplies tender, saying Namibia cannot afford to spend close to hundreds of millions on condoms at this point. They also accused the Health Ministry of overseeing a system that is designed for insider trading and collusion based on the amount of money allocated for gloves and condoms. Venani, who wrote a letter to Geingob last Friday to beseech him to step in, made these remarks following the contentious awarding of huge tenders of Amnex Trading owned by businessman Shapwa Kanyama. On its page 3, the paper reports that a 13-year-old girl hasn't yet fully healed from giving birth to a premature baby boy in November last year at Oshikuku Hospital in Omusati region. The 18-year-old Stephen Ngishindibwa Barnabas, who is alleged to be the father of the child, was arrested after the birth of the child last year. However, he has denied being the father, and the police are set to conduct a DNA test to determine his relationship to the child. The young mother, however, insists that her and Barnabas were in a relationship and describes Barnabas as her boyfriend, adding that she wants him to be released from police custody.
According to the Algemene Zeitung, Recon Africa has not announced anything new, but its website describes exploration in Namibia and Botswana as a target. The site reportedly does not reflect changes over the past 24 months. Meanwhile, the first opposition to exploration in the protected area is stirring in Botswana. The paper's page 3 reports that a shortage on pork has occurred in Namibia. Foot and mouth disease in South Africa has hit the Namibian market since South Africa has been affected by foot and mouth disease. No fresh unprocessed pork may be exported to Namibia. This has hit the Namibian meat market hard.
Stay with us as we continue with the newspaper review after the break.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toyvon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact agenda@synergy.com.na. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Continuing with the newspaper review, the Namibian reports of the sentiments of Celeste Speedy Plakis, who was allegedly fatally assaulted over a week ago by two members of the police's Special Reserve Force in Keetmanshoop. Celeste succumbed to his wounds on Wednesday at the Katutura Intermediate Hospital in Windhoek. In a separate story, the paper reports that the Central Procurement Board of Namibia is currently evaluating another state contract estimated at over $5 billion Namibian to supply the Ministry of Health and Social Services with medicine. This tender is separate from the controversial contracts worth $2.8 billion Namibian, which were awarded 2 weeks ago and dominated by businessman Shapwa Kanyama and his close associates. Now, a former employee of the Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund has failed with an attempt to win the dismissal of a lawsuit in which the fund is suing him over the alleged fraud involving nearly $530,000 Namibian. Former NASFAF Payments Officer Thomas Kongola will have to present his defense to a claim that the fund is pursuing against him following the delivery of a judgment by Judge Boas Usiku in the Windhoek High Court yesterday.
New Era reports that at least 47 artisans were verbally dismissed on Monday after failed wage negotiations. The artisans, who were employed by Metal Mill Engineering, a company contracted by Andrata Mining Limited at UIS, said their previous contracts came to an end in December and they approached their employer for new wage negotiations. New Era also reports that a communal farmer from Otuwala village in Oshana region lost several goats to an unknown predator and found them bleeding non-stop. According to the owner, 12 of the sheep were attacked and 5 of them and a dog died, while 7 were bleeding profusely with holes in their head.
Now, MarketWatch reports that cost of living crisis is ranked as the most severe global risk over the next 2 years, according to the Global Risks Perception Survey. The persistence of a global cost of living crisis could result in a growing proportion of the most vulnerable parts of society being priced out of access to basic needs, fueling unrest and political instability. Continued supply chain disruptions could lead to a sticky core inflation, particularly in food and energy. This could fuel further interest rate hikes, raising the risk of debt distress, a prolonged economic downturn, and a vicious cycle for fiscal planning, the report reads.
Namibia is experiencing a shortage of pork in the market. When we return, we find out what cost is as well as its impact on the Namibian economy.
Africa Good Morning is a current affairs program that brings you the latest from Southern Africa and beyond. News, economics, sport, weather, interviews, and so much more. For any advertising or news-related queries, contact AGM at synergy.com.na. Africa Good Morning, bringing Africa to you.
In economic news, Namibians are facing a growing shortage of fresh, unprocessed meat on store shelves, especially pork. One of the biggest contributing factors to this is an outbreak of foot-and-mouth disease in South Africa, which has caused the market to experience a critical shortage. Desmond Kluter, Chief Marketing Officer at the Meat Board of Namibia, does not expect the situation to change soon in terms of the presence of FMD in South Africa. Local pig production meets only about 50% of the demand in the formal market. This means there is a deficit of 50%. It has always been supplemented with products from South Africa. Due to the outbreak of foot-and-mouth disease in South Africa, a moratorium has been placed on imports of fresh, unprocessed pork from South Africa, he explains. Kluter says that usually a shortage of supply and greater demand leads to increased prices. However, they only recently started keeping a consumer price index, and it is still difficult to determine whether there is an upward pressure on consumer prices in terms of meat.
Namibia imported 15% more beef products last year than it did in 2021, while its beef exports grew by 27.4%. This according to the December monthly statistics by the Meat Board of Namibia, which said Namibia exported 10.2 million kilograms of beef to various destinations compared to 7.87 million kilograms of beef exported during the same period in 2021. Now, a total of 46% of these exports went to the European Union, 20.5% was exported to South Africa, 12.9% went to Norway, and the remaining 20.4% was exported to China and various African countries. Similarly, year-to-date beef imports stood at 2,230,439 kilograms in December 2022, a growth of 15.5%. Of this import, 75.1% came from South Africa in the form of processed products, and the remaining share originated from the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Ireland in the form of official products and beef pies. Now, according to the Meat Board, a total of 240,463 cattle were marketed in 2023 compared to 23,000 the previous year. Year-to-date, cattle marketing for the first time in 3 years were recorded a growth rate of 2.3% during 2022 compared to 2021, it said.
Let's head into the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar is up next to the British pound, euro, and US dollar, but trading down after a while, actually, next to the Chinese yuan at 2.54 Namibian dollars. MTC, Anirep, and Capricorn Investment managed to maintain their value, whilst First Rand Namibia took a dip of 33.00 points. Local index closed down 0.02%, whilst the overall index closed up 1.34%. Looking at commodities, zinc maintains its value whilst copper makes an upsurge, Brent crude oil makes a downturn, and gold is down 0.52%.
COVID-19 funds misappropriated in Ghana, according to an audit report, while a Tanzanian national who died while fighting with the Russian forces in Ukraine is still stranded in Russia. This story and more news from the African continent after the break.
AgriMonitor is jou weeklikse landboukundige program wat jou die jongste nuus in die landbouverwante bedryf en onderwerpe wat daaraan gekoppel is bring. Vir enige advertensie of nuusverwante navraag, kontak agrimonitor@synergy.com.na.
Getting into our news from Africa. After Senegal, Ghana is the latest African country where officials have been called out for misappropriating or mismanaging funds dedicated to fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ghana Audit Service report on the government's COVID-19 expenditure for the period going from March 2020 to June 2022 is widely commented on social media. In all, over $1 billion was mobilized to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana. The 119-page long report highlighted irregularities in the management of some tranches of the funds, among them the payment of unapproved risk allowance of the Ministry of Information. It appeared that senior management staff and other supporting staff of the ministry paid themselves a COVID-19 risk allowance for coming to work during the lockdown period. That went against presidential directives and without approval from the Office of Chief of Staff. Indeed, only frontline health workers were to receive an additional allowance of 50% of their basic salary per month for March, April, May, and June. Now, according to the report, the authorities failed to deliver some of COVID-19 jobs it paid for. Now, the Ghanaian Ministry of Health paid an amount of $120,192,379 US dollars to UNICEF and AVAT for the supply of vaccines. However, just 5,109,600 doses of vaccine chains valued at $38,332 million US dollars were supplied to the National Cold Room.
Now, the body of Nims Tarimo, a Tanzanian who died while fighting with Russian forces in Ukraine, is still stranded in Russia. A family member says they were expecting the body to arrive on 10 January and had already made burial arrangements at the family's rural home. One of our family members is contacting the Tanzanian embassy in Russia on the procedures. All the burial arrangements are ready, but the body is stranded and we don't know why, a family member said. A mourner who had repeatedly visited the home for the return of the body said the long wait was hurting even more. A family spokesperson said mourners will be given a chance to pay their last respects to the deceased in Dar es Salaam before the body is moved to their rural village in Southern Highlands region for burial. Stay with us as we head into international news soon.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Getting into our international news, the U.S. health regulator yesterday proposed one dose of the latest updated COVID-19 shot annually for healthy adults, similar to the influenza immunization campaign, as it aims to simplify the country's COVID vaccine strategy. Now, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration also asked its panel of external advisors to consider the usage of 2 COVID vaccine shots a year for some young children, older adults, and persons with compromised immunity. The regulator proposed the need for routine selection of variants for updating the vaccine, similar to the way strains for flu vaccines are changed annually, in briefing documents ahead of a meeting of its panel on Thursday. Now, the FDA hopes annual immunization schedules may contribute to less complicated vaccine deployment and fewer vaccine administration errors, leading to improved vaccine coverage rates. Now, the agency's proposal was on expected lines following its announcement of its intention for the update last month. The Biden administration has also been planning for a campaign of vaccine boosters every fall season.
Now we'll be heading into local sports soon.
The My.NA Cars Show provides viewers with the best in-class cars content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest cars-related news, products, and services. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Cars, more than just a ride.
Namibia's middle-distance running prospect David Dam will approach the year with a different strategy compared to last year in a bid to claim national and continental glory. The athlete, who is currently in Omaruru, is said to have commenced preparation for a year in which he is expected to prove his mesmerizing potential. The plan is to have Dam compete in only one local Grand Prix leg in the third month of the year to pave the way towards the National Senior Athletics Championships. Dam's manager, Bertold Karumendu, is confident that a different strategy will yield the desired results for the athlete in 2023.
This coming weekend will see the Namibian Southern Stream First Division conclude its first leg of matches, reborn after a torrid time of no football due to a lack of sponsorship and infighting. The division has produced satisfactory action and results. Its marketing manager, Ronnie Haruap, said the division is currently under the administration of the Namibia Football Association, where it also gets its funding. The division, which plays host to football teams from Khomas and surrounding regions, is expected to reach its climax in the second leg as teams battle for promotion to the Premier League.
Walvish Bay-based technician body Transformation and Monarch Lifeguard and Emergency will host a free boot camp fitness and wellness event titled Fit Nation on the 28th of January at June's Mall, Walvish Bay. The first of its kind boot camp will commence from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. According to Martin Muyenga, owner of Monarch Lifeguard, the event is being hosted with the aim of introducing fitness to the nation. Boot camps, according to Muyenga, are important as they help encourage people to work on their fitness, which is good for their health. We'll be heading into international sports right after this break.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toivon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact agenda at synergy.com.na. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
Senegal, who began the final round in Group B lying second, trounced two-time former champions, the Democratic Republic of Congo, 3-0 in the eastern city of Anamba. The surprisingly comfortable victory elevated the Senegalese to first and the last 8 showdown with the Group D winners, probably Mali, this Friday. Ivory Coast were lost in the standings as they kicked off against the leaders Uganda, but a 3-1 triumph lifted them to second and qualification for the knockout phase. The Ivorians will face Algeria on Friday in Algiers at the Stade Nelson Mandela, a ground where the host nation won all 3 Group A matches without conceding.
Richards Bay co-coach Vasil Monasakis has praised the all-round attitude at the club and said it has the core reason for their high position in the DStv Premiership this season. The Northern KwaZulu-Natal outfit were promoted late last season and defied all expectation by climbing to second place, albeit 14 points behind leaders.
All right, that brings us to the end of our sport. Stay with us as we head into the highlights.
Getting into our highlights from today's broadcast. After Senegal, Ghana is the latest African country where officials have been called out for misappropriating or mismanaging funds dedicated to fighting the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, that is our top story highlight on NMH at 1. Thank you very much for joining us. See you same time, same place tomorrow.